All right. Just getting everything arranged here and we are live. It is 9 p.m. on a Monday. And we are live with some Monday Night Perry here on twitch.tv/Perry Von Vicious. Down in the workshop, all the elves are making toys. A popular lyric from my favorite musical artist of all time, and no one comes close. If you asked me to name my top 10, he'd be 1 through 10, and then everyone else can come after that. It is, of course, Weird Al Yankovic. And today I thought, after being coaxed by some folks in the chat on some previous streams, that I would share a bit of my Weird Al collection. It is vast. There's a lot to it. Uh, I'm waiting for a few folks to stroll on in now. I know there's a few people expected here who did not want to miss this, but I'm very excited. Hey, Bobby Gilbert in the chat. Uh, yeah, very excited to share with you guys my Weird Al collection. I don't know if this is going to end up being a much longer stream than usual or much shorter. There is a lot to show, but it's something really important to me, and I'll start with the easy stuff right up front. I mean, you can see it right here. I'm wearing one of the shirts. This is actually a relatively new shirt, even though the graphic is pretty old. This graphic is from the album In 3D, which came out when I was just still a tiny little child, and it's a shirt that was actually only released a couple years ago because In 3D was featured, and a shirt just like this was featured in season 2 of Stranger Things. Stranger Things had a bunch of Weird Al references that season, which just totally makes sense. It's set in the late '80s, that particular season, and that was the first arc of Weird Al's popularity. So totally fits that this shirt would have come out then. But if I'm perfectly honest with you, I'm a little bit cold down here in the basement, so I actually need to put on another shirt. So I'm going to cover this beautiful shirt, but I thought I would show it off before I decided to get a little warmer. So yeah, I gotta throw another shirt on here. And a keen observer will notice that this is a shirt for a store called Spatula City, a fictional store from Weird Al's movie UHF. Uh, yeah, this is a shirt that was also only released just a couple years ago. It was part of like a special set that came out that were all UHF references and other kind of slightly more obscure Weird Al references. There was a shirt for Jerry's Bait Shop, which of course is from Albuquerque, one of my all-time favorite Weird Al songs from my favorite Weird Al album. But we'll get to that later as we dive through the collection a bit more. But if I'm perfectly honest, it's still a little cold here in the basement, so hang on. Really not much of a Weird Al stream if you're not in a Hawaiian shirt. But again, like with this other shirt, a keen observer will notice the design on this shirt has spatulas, it has checkered vans, there's accordions. I believe Weird Al's face is actually on the shirt somewhere. There's a Twinkie Wiener sandwich from UHF. A lot of in jokes hidden on one little shirt, and yeah, this was actually a piece of merch that you could buy during the second iteration of Weird Al's ill-advised Vanity tour, which was a tour where he played no parodies, he played no hits, no video screen, no costume changes, just him and the band sitting on stools playing essentially what amounts to the B-sides from their albums. It was all originals. And truth be told, one of my favorite tours he's ever done. I'm so glad he did it twice. I got to go 4 different times between the 2 different tours and saw songs that meant so much to me that I assumed I would never see live. So pretty cool. All right. I see Bobby Gilbert mentioned it in the chat, and I'm gonna jump in with it now. And I'm going to let this run for a little bit because this is going to go up on YouTube hopefully tomorrow. So I'm going to open it up to YouTube viewers who make it into the video and see it. I am doing a giveaway of this 2000, I believe it's a 2003 You'll see it in the bottom corner of your screen. Monster Mutt Hot Wheels Monster Jam truck. Just part of my collection, part of the overflow. It's in incredible shape, not a chipped bit of paint. Axles are straight, very nice. I am doing a giveaway of this classic toy. And my trivia question, doing it as less of a trivia question, more of a name your favorite. Uh, at me on Twitter, at me on Instagram, DM me, wherever. Leave it in the comments on YouTube. I'll check everything out before the end of this week. And tell me your favorite Weird Al thing. Anything. Could be one of his movies, could be one of his TV shows, could be favorite song. Maybe you saw him in concert and it was awesome. I mean, maybe it's something you see in my collection that you kind of wish you had. So if something catches your eye, tell me what it is, and I'm gonna find the people who do that. I'm gonna pick at random, and someone's getting their hands on this fantastic Monster Mutt toy that at this point is 20 years old, which is kind of crazy to think about. All right, I'm gonna set that out of the way because there's a lot of stuff for me to show here. Bobby Gilbert jumping in right in the chat here and telling me his favorite Weird Al song is "Fat." Just jumping right to it. No reason to wait. You were on top of it. And you know what? Honestly, I think for a lot of us that was the first song we heard. The video is so iconic, like such a perfect parody, and not everyone knows this. When Weird Al went to film that, Michael Jackson had the subway set from the Bad video and actually offered it to Al and said you can film in the set. It's still here. So Al used the same set still built from Michael Jackson's video, which is pretty cool. All right, so like I said, there is so much to cover here, and hey, Graves made it. Graves missed all the outfit changes because I'm like 4 layers deep in in Weird Al gear. Amish Paradise is a great close second. I completely agree, Bobby. Um, all right, so we've covered a little bit of the clothing. Oh, you know what? We didn't cover all the clothing. There's more. I gotta back up from the table for this one. All the feet people are going to be super excited. So Weird Al famously wears the checkered Vans, which I also do. But I'm going to switch to the close-up cam for this one. A risky move, but I do have the Weird Al socks. They're upside down on your screen, but you get the idea. He's only had like 2 pairs of those ever made. There were these ones and another pair for a different tour, but I had to get them. Weird socks were a big thing for me. Uh, yeah, I'm gonna make my way through some of the collection now, and some of it's more recent stuff. I feel like for a guy who's had a long-standing career and people buying the media he's produced, it wasn't until the last few years that he really amped up how much stuff got released. Again, like the two T-shirt designs I'm wearing and this Hawaiian shirt are all within the last 5 years or so, 5 6 years. All right, so first I'm going to show. It's such a tough call to figure out an order here. Yeah, I'm gonna dive into the. You'll see it down on your screen in the corner. The stack of DVDs, which actually I have to do a little tech work for 1 second because I've just realized I still have green screen turned on the little camera, and I gotta turn that off. Otherwise, you're not gonna be able to see any of this. All right, that should fix the problem. It wouldn't be one of my streams without some weird technical glitch. All right, so I'm gonna switch so we have the big close up cam here, and this is my stack of Weird Al DVDs. These span probably 15 years of releases, maybe a little more. And it is just DVDs, no Blu-rays. I never graduated to Blu-rays. I got the DVDs, and honestly, like, it's so rare that I even have something hooked up that can play a DVD anymore. I don't really worry about it. So first, this is the Complete Al. You'll notice complete being spelled incorrectly. The amazing, almost true life story of a rock and roll legend. This is a mockumentary that was supposedly following Al's career up through, well, it would have been up through the Dare to Be Stupid album, his third album. It contained all of his music videos and a bunch of weird sketches and weird skits that make up, sort of make up. I guess you would call it a documentary, but it's so ridiculous and absurd. It's a little bit hard to describe. It was actually based on, they had released a book that was a fake biography of Weird Al called The Complete Al, which is now basically impossible to get your hands on. Otherwise, I would absolutely have it, but it's so expensive. There are only two Weird Al books I know of that aren't in my collection, and that is one of them. The other one is the Weird Al Anthology, which is sheet music for a bunch of his songs. And yeah, they were both out of print long before I was old enough to really start buying his merch in earnest. Um, but yeah, that's one that I really love, and there's so many great moments on it, and it was impossible to get a hold of forever. I had rented it once from a tape rental place when I was pretty young, and then never saw it again. All the video places closed down, so that tape was long gone. And this got re-released. I mean, maybe like 2015. Like, it was really late considering this came out in like 88 or 89. Um, but yeah, that's DVD one. DVD two, The Weird Al Show. If you're unfamiliar with The Weird Al Show, it ran one season, which is pretty funny that it says the complete series on the front. Only ran the one season, but it was his, essentially Weird Al's version of Pee Wee's Playhouse. The DVD's great. There's all kinds of like cool commentaries and art galleries where they talk about the set design. And anytime Weird Al does commentary on anything, it's just the best time. He gets so in depth with things. He has notebooks full of stuff, and the stuff he remembers about filming and dates and locations is just absurd, and you can tell he has a lot of fun with it. This show, of course, had the very famous appearance of Macho Man Randy Savage when he had a wrestling match against Harvey the Wonder Hamster and lost in spectacular fashion. But yeah, it's part of that era where DVDs had really like just fantastic. I mean, even just the disc art is really great. I want to say, yeah, really fantastic art there. They've got little bits of art where he's in the Flintstones, and yeah, just really all of it looks just so spectacular. And it's one of the things I miss about collecting physical media, because I really don't anymore. But yeah, that's a great one. I will admit, as a grown adult, it can feel like a little bit of a chore to get all the way through the Weird Al Show. I still love it. It's just, it feels long. It feels long compared to everything else he does. That said, one of the all-time great theme songs for a Saturday morning kids show, which of course appeared on my favorite album of all time, which we will get to later. Let's see. This was an early compendium of Weird Al's music videos. If memory serves, yeah, I can see from the listing on the back, it goes just past Bad Hair Day. So this would have been, gosh, I can look for the date on here. It says here this was released in 1993. I believe it. Bad Hair Day was an album I was first listening to in probably the fourth or fifth grade, so that tracks. That's right. Randy lost clean to a hamster and Spider-Man. um, but yeah, this one was like a quickie release. This was when he was still on his record deal with Scotty Bros. You can see their logo down in the corner here. They were really squeezing a lot of compilation stuff out of Al, and he always hated that. He talked about it pretty openly on his website, even while he was still under contract, how his Greatest Hits 1, Greatest Hits 2, the Food album, the TV album, that were just compilations. He never really liked that they were doing that. It felt like, if you're going to release something, have me create something new. Don't just package a bunch of pre-release stuff. But that's what this was, and you can kind of tell it's a cheaper case. When you open it, there's basically no art on the disc. Like, this was more or less a cash grab from the record label. But that said, at the time, it was really nice to have all of his music videos in one place. But it wouldn't be the last time he compiled all his music videos in one place, because he wound up having a lot more music videos. Which brings us to the Weird Al The Ultimate Video Collection. This one goes all the way through the very next album, so it only encompasses one extra album. This makes it all the way up through Running with Scissors. And it does have a lot of clips from the Weird Al show and some of his like early TV performances that are hard to find. So that's pretty cool. But again, this was a kind of a more simple concept. You can see it's a little bit later in the career. This is when he had the LASIK surgery, so he didn't need glasses anymore, and he'd shaved the mustache, and his hair grew a little longer, which pulled the top flat, so it sort of changed the shape of his head. But yeah, again, not a super interesting. I believe the booklet in here is literally just, yeah, it's just a list of what's in it, so it's pretty much the same as the cover. But again, this was important. This was the only way I would have a lot of those videos. And now we're getting, let's see, I want to see, is this still the order I want to go? Yeah, I guess this is the order we'll go. This Weird Al Live. This aired on VH1 in its entirety the summer that Running with Scissors came out, so that would have been summer 1999. This particular piece of media might be, along with his Behind the Music that came out that summer, might be the sole responsible creation for Perry Von Vicious. I think wait, I'm getting caught up on the chat here. Some of it's showing, some of it's not. Did I win last weekend? I didn't wrestle last weekend. Did I wrestle last weekend? I've lost track. No, this past weekend I did not wrestle. I had no shows this past weekend. I was comfortably home, working on the house and compiling all this to show all of you. But this particular live concert recording, I believe, changed the course of my entire life. I don't want to overstate that, but I don't think I can understate it. It was the first time since I'd been really little. I was second grade. I watched the New Kids live, but this would have been freshman year for me of high school. And this was the moment that I realized, like, maybe I could be a gigantic doofus nerd and people would still enjoy things that I did if I was creative and if I worked hard. And as a result, I took the next year and I learned the accordion and the piano, mostly self-taught, and then the guitar, and then wound up in a punk band, wound up touring, and eventually that led me to stand up in professional wrestling. And everything that you know of me today is because of this live concert. I still think it may be one of the greatest live concert recordings ever. The lighting, the costumes, the set list, there's not a miss anywhere in it. And it's not even the complete set list from this tour, because I went to this tour twice. It was the first concert when I was truly like old enough to appreciate it. I saw the New Kids on the Block when I was in second grade, but you're a second grader. You don't really take it all in. I was a freshman in high school, and I saw Weird Al twice on this tour, and it definitely was like a life-altering experience. It changed everything I decided I wanted to do with myself, mostly because it made me realize that there was more that was possible. But yeah, I can't stress enough how important this is to me. At my parents' house, there is more to the collection. There's stuff that won't be here. There's stuff that won't be on the stream. At my parents' house, I still have the original VHS release of this, and I have the VHS that I recorded it off of VH1 with. So I have multiple copies of this. This is just the one that lives with me currently. So years later, when the Alpocalypse album came out, Weird Al did another concert recording, and that's what this DVD is, the Weird Al Yankovic Live, the Alpocalypse Tour, with I love the art on this cover. And again, it's another flawless set list. It's just from later in his career. Still with the costumes, still with the big screens. If you've never seen Weird Al live, I believe one or both of these can be found on the internet, on YouTube or on Tubi. You gotta take him in. It's incredible. He's a great live performer. His vocals are incredible live. His band is amazing live. He's great live on the accordion or on the keyboard. It's just really a sight to behold. And for a dorky little nerd with basically no friends, uh, these glimpses into what a fellow nerd who didn't have a lot of friends could turn into, yeah, it was definitely sort of make or break for where I went with my life. And then last on the DVD list, and this took forever to come out, home releases of UHF were so few and far between after the movie first released. This DVD seriously came out maybe, gosh, it was probably 2000. I mean, there's going to be a date on here somewhere. Wow, yeah, like 2008. For a movie that was in 1989. 2008 was when they first re-released this after the initial VHS run. We've talked a bit about UHF on the stream before. Again, this is a movie that would air on Comedy Central like weekend mornings all the time, and I would just see it constantly. Even though I'd watched it over and over, I'd wake up and it would just be on. It was like comfort food. I could just sit there with it on. Me and my friends could quote most of it to each other. We'd break out the camcorder and recreate sketches from it when we were pretty, like, maybe like 10 or 11. And yeah, just an absolute masterpiece, greatly underappreciated by most. Now it's very much seen as a cult classic, and it gets a lot of the love it deserves now. But yeah, just again, this one, there's no real disc art going on, but that's because the DVD. This was during that rare period where DVDs were double sided. One side is widescreen and one side is standard. And I will say the commentary on this is amazing. One of the greatest bits of commentary I've ever seen. He's doing sketches in the middle of commentary. His hand comes up into the screen and pauses the movie, and he gets up and walks away to have like a bathroom break or to get food or something. Like, just super funny and very creative. And of course, I don't need to prattle on about how great UHF is. It's a classic. There's a million great jokes in it, and yeah, kind of a high point in the career of a lot of folks. All right, so that's the DVD stack. Yeah, double-sided DVDs were a pain because depending on the player, the way you put them in, it would play the wrong side. So you'd have to start all over again, and with the way the like menus had to load, it was just what a lot of work for like so little payoff. All right, so next, so I've not been quiet on this stream about how much I love toys. I'm a toy maker. I've been working on Toxie. He's still on the bench behind me, waiting for a couple little touch ups and then some clear coat. Um, I collect toys. I have toys of myself, toys of my friends. The monster truck toys are everywhere. I mean, they're in the background here. You can see them. But like forever, when I was first into Weird Al, there were no toys of any type, and eventually that did change, thankfully. And it took me a little while to collect them, and some of them are from sort of weird reaches within the toy world. I'll start with sort of the simple "these are Weird Al" toys. These are from NECA, who, if you've seen like the Ninja Turtle toys from NECA, where they perfectly recreate the live action turtles and the video game turtles, where they still look pixelated as toys. They're always high end, and this first one is this is Weird Al from the White and Nerdy music video, complete with hoodie, like all soft goods. He's got real jeans, real hoodie, real shirt. There's a chain under there, a little bit of bling for rapper Al. He's got the do rag on. He's making the live long and prosper hand gesture. This was one of the first ones they made. I think this actually was the first one they made. And I snagged it as soon as I could, like the instant I could, even though it was a stylized Al. And I wanted canonical Al. You know what I mean? Oh man, a Weird Al monster truck. I wish. Maybe one day that's what I'll do. Um, but I wanted canonical Al. I wanted Al with the accordion. I wanted Al with Hawaiian shirt. That's what I wanted. And this was a great place to start. but it wasn't what I was dying for, but it had to be in the collection. Thankfully, just a couple years later, they gave me the figure of figures, you guys. Canonical Weird Al Yankovic. It actually comes with a second head that has the long hair that's a little flatter on top of his head, no glasses and no mustache. So there's variations of him you can do here. He's wearing the checkered slip-on Vans. He's got his accordion, and of course a Hawaiian shirt modeled after one that he had actually worn on tour. I believe this is loosely modeled on Al circa the Off the Deep End album. But it is just a fantastic figure. Again, all soft goods, real pants, real Hawaiian shirt. Just gorgeous. And the accordion is a pretty good representation of his actual accordion. And we'll see a little bit more of representations of his real life accordion a little later on in the collection. But this was a huge turning point in the collecting of his toys. And yeah, somewhere packed away down here, carefully stored, I do have all the extra parts. The White and Nerdy figure also came with extra parts. See, that figure would be world champion in my figure promotion. And you know what? He would deserve it. I think so. All right, so the next are two of my favorites. The first is this is The Simpsons put out a lot of figures of people who've been guest stars on episodes of The Simpsons. So, of course, they had to make one of Al as he appeared on The Simpsons. This is very similar to what we saw from the classic NECA. The accordion, the mustache, the glasses, the poofy hair, the slip-on sneakers. A great look and a great toy. This was out before that one, and I wanted this one the most. And it took me very little time to get it. You know, I think this is one of the first things where I just said, forget it, and I ordered it on eBay. Like, I just had to have it. And yeah, just fantastic. If you've seen Al on The Simpsons, the bits are always funny. He's always as himself. Homer, of course, is a huge Weird Al fan because of course he is. Homer Simpson famously says, "He who has what was it? He who cannot enjoy Weird Al has lost himself." Something along those lines, and I definitely agree. But of course, they couldn't stop there because Al's been on multiple times. That was early Al with the mustache and the glasses. Later on, he did appear after he had shaved the mustache and had lost the glasses. So they released it as a Comic-Con exclusive. There were not many of these. I want to say it was 2,000 of these total made. So of course he is in the collection. This is the Comic-Con exclusive Al. You see it's a sort of inverted design of the same Hawaiian shirt. Otherwise, pants and shoes are the same. Accordion is the same. But he is without glasses, without mustache, and the hair is a slightly different color, very slight. And in fact, that's one of the first times I've ever noticed it, seeing it on camera just now. But yeah, that's later Weird Al. This would have been, I believe, when he came on and he did the song "The Story of Homer and Marge" as a parody of Jack and Diane. All right, so we cut to just a couple years after those come out. And there's a very popular line of toys that I had promised myself I wouldn't get into collecting because there's so many of them and they span every potential genre. There's whole stores devoted to them. I swore I wouldn't start collecting Funko Pops. Okay, I feel like that's a long and dangerous rabbit hole to fall down. But they got me. They got me because first they released, again, canonical Al. Mustache, glasses, accordion, Hawaiian shirt, the checkered Vans. If you look closely, it's a very small checkered design. Just a great, really a beautiful figure of Al. I mean, right? Like that screams Weird Al. It's got the perfect toy aesthetic to fit the original design. Just outstanding. So I had to have that. But then, just like a year later, they released a limited edition, and I couldn't find it online, and I had to hunt and hunt and hunt in stores from Bobby Gilbert's favorite Weird Al song, Weird Al from the Fat video. He's got that full leather Michael Jackson garb. He's in the shaman kind of pose, And of course, he is much more rotund than Al in real life. And yeah, I had to have that because, if I was going to have the white and nerdy Al from NECA, I might as well have the Funko Pop of Al from the Fat video. I kind of wish they'd do more. I'd like Al from the Eat It video, or maybe like a Surgeon Al. I think those would be good. But yeah, that is. I'll line them all up one last time. That is my collection of Weird Al toys. Those are all the figures that have been made of Weird Al. There are no other Weird Al figures, with some minor exceptions. Technically, Al voiced a character called, I believe, Cheese on the newer My Little Pony series, and they have released a couple figures of that particular My Little Pony, as well as some kind of like ride vehicle that the pony has. I forget what it was exactly, but they did do something pretty cool. Where on the side of the pony, there's a little grilled cheese sandwich that's being spread, and the cheese pull looks like the bellows of an accordion, and the bread looks like the actual ends of the accordion. So that's pretty cool. It's got like a little accordion tattoo on its butt. You got to appreciate that. All right, so the next thing we're going to look through, I'm going to give away a. Okay, so Graves has seen that episode. Al's had a lot of great cameos. He voiced a character in one of the newer Transformers films. Uh, he's been in Fairly Odd Parents. He was on the Aquabats Super Show, like just all kinds of stuff. He's everywhere, and it always makes me happy. He did a song for John Hodge, my friend of the show, John Hodgman's Dicktown. He did a song for that. All right, so next, all right, this is my stack of Weird Al books, and I don't know if it reads on screen how many are here. This is my Weird Al tribute bookmark that was gifted to me for my birthday by artist Kelly Phillips. So go support. She made a Weird Al bookmark. What's not to love? But that's always with my stack of books. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's reading how many are here or how big they are, but this is quite the stack, and they're like tomes. Some of these I'm going to have to switch to the IRL cam because they're not going to fit in the benchtop view. But we'll go through them here. So first there is the Weird Accordion to Al, subtitled "Every Weird Al Yankovic Album, Analyzed in Obsessive Detail by the co-author of Weird Al the Book, Nathan Rabin, with Al Yankovic." And yeah, it's. Oh, do I have another Al bookmark? There's a bookmark in here. That's just a regular Montague Book Mill. Go support your local bookstores. Yeah, they've got whole chapters on every album, and each song gets its own subchapter. This book I have pored over in detail that is maybe embarrassing. And there's some great stuff I learned. For example, on Running with Scissors, which came out, I believe, in 1999, if my memory is not failed. Yeah, it would have been summer of 99. In Running with Scissors, his ska-style original song, Your Horoscope for Today, the horn section is actually the horn section from Real Big Fish. They came in the studio to play for him, and I love that. Like, he goes right to the source for this stuff, and I would have known that if I hadn't been reading through this. But this is a very in-depth cover of all of his direct releases, and then at the end they do get into some different songs like Homer and Marge from The Simpsons, and you can see the art there of Al with Homer and Marge. So it gets pretty obscure, and I love that. There's illustrations in here by Philip Sorbriero, and they all kind of crack me up. Like, there's some really, really great stuff in here. Now, that may seem a little obsessive, and I understand you would think that. It gets worse, because the same guy re-released his book like a year later, The Weird Accordion to Al, ridiculously self-indulgent, ill-advised vanity edition, which is essentially the same book, but with the things he missed. I believe that he talks a little bit in here about, yeah, here's a bunch of, he gets into the battle raps of history and some of the other stuff. The Complete Al, which I discussed earlier, the DVD talks about the making of that. UHF gets into how that was done. So it's not just the albums here. He goes further. These are episodes of the Weird Al show that he goes into in detail. Uh, just oh god, this one I have not even finished. I've tried to, and it takes so much time. And I will finish it because of course I will. But yeah, I do in fact have two different versions of the same book, and to me they're both completely necessary for my collection. I'm gonna set those out of the way here. All right, so this is Weird Al Seriously by Lily E. Hirsch. Lily E. Hirsch. I don't know. I'm gonna say Lily because I think it's funnier. But yeah, this is another book that essentially is a very serious look at Weird Al's career, um, going through everything he did, everything he created. There's stories of his early life. A lot of stuff that wouldn't necessarily be things that, yeah, the art of self-deprecation. They really dive into what he does and how he's created his particular personas. Um, yeah, so this is one that was actually kind of a hard read. It was stuff that I was hungry to know about, but uh, it was stuff that I needed time to digest as I made my way through. So I do recommend this one. This one's a good one. All three of those are definitely still available on Amazon. Now we're getting to some of the fun ones. This is The Illustrated Al, the songs of Weird Al Yankovic, with a foreword written by Emo Phillips, who is one of my favorite stand-up comedians of all time. He works in my favorite genre of stand-up comedy, which is the absurd one-liner, with jokes like, I was on a date the other night and it didn't go very well. You know, she got mad at me because I wouldn't open the car door for her. Instead, I just swam for the surface. It's a good one. It's one of my favorites. But yeah, he's a good friend of Al's, and those of us who've seen UHF will recognize Emo Phillips as the local high school shop teacher who cuts his thumb off on screen on UHF. Just call me Mr. Butterfingers. He is one of the all-time greatest comedians. I'm so psyched that he got to work on this book. But this book essentially illustrates a bunch of Al's big songs in comic book form. This would have been a better stream for next Wednesday. Wait, oh yeah, because next Wednesday is Weird Al's birthday. Uh, so next week I'm going to be really iffy on my availability and really short on time because we got our friends from Japan flying over. They come in early Thursday morning. But yeah, this is fantastic. He works with a bunch of different artists, so every song has its own sort of style. Um, yeah, it's just a lot of fun, and all the written parts of every little mini graphic novel are just the lyrics from the songs. And my favorite is that he does hit maybe my favorite Weird Al song, which is "The Biggest Ball of Twine in Minnesota." Is your birthday next Wednesday? Oh no, your birthday's Thursday. That's right. Yeah, yours is Thursday. That's when the Japanese fly in. They'll be coming in early that morning. I'll be with Rip Bison picking them up at the airport, assuming Jet Wee behaves and makes it through security. You know, he's a troublemaker. Nah, he's a great kid. But yeah, I absolutely, the fact that there's an illustrated version of Biggest Ball of Twine in Minnesota alone meant that I had to have this. But of course I had to have it. I've got everything, so that had to be in the collection. Um, so now we're getting to the big books here, and these are gorgeous and amazing. Uh, these are the kinds of things. These came out within the last few years. Also, these are relatively new. When I was like 14, 15, I would have done anything for books like these to exist. The first is Weird Al the Book by Nathan Rabin, who you'll remember from just a few minutes ago also wrote The Weird Accordion to Al. Um, this is his earlier book, which is sort of just a large form, I mean, hand for scale, and I've got big hands. Um, this is a large form sort of overview of Al's career with amazing photography. and a foreword written by Al himself. We got young Al here. This is Al giving his high school valedictorian speech. He graduated at age 16, valedictorian from Linwood High School in California. His parents, Nick and Mary. Um, but yeah, this it covers so much of his career. There's beautiful photography in here, but like it's not just art and pictures. The amount that they've written here about his career, the in-depth look at like behind the scenes of creating some of his music videos. Here's his appearance on Celebrity Wheel of Fortune. Celebrity Wheel of Fortune, where the other two celebrities on the episode were Little Richard and James Brown. Like what a lineup! Um, yeah, this is one that I would have done anything to have had when I was younger. Because I'll tell you, when I got this, in the course of about a day and a half, I think I actually called out of work the day that this came when I ordered it. I called out of work, and literally for a day and a half, I just sat with this book in stone silence, just dead air in my house, and I pored over every page, taking in every picture, reading every word, and it is something that I needed badly in my life. All right. Yeah, Weird Al's crazy smart. Not everyone would realize he actually has a master's degree in architecture from Cal Poly, the California Polytechnical Institute, that he has never used. Because while he was there, he got a radio show at the college and then started sending his own music into Dr. Demento, still a teenager at the time, and he had a record deal before he finished college, so he never had to use it. He jokingly says that he's used it every day as a coaster. I don't know if that's true, but I like to think it is. So these next two, man, I don't pre-order books very often. I wait for them to come out and I just buy them. I pre-ordered these the instant they were announced. I'm going to flash back over to the IRL for a sec because these are big, and I may go back to the bench. We'll see. So Weird Al Yankovic has toured with the same band since his first album. That band is comprised of guitarist Jim West. His keyboardist is Ruben Valtierra. He's got wow, I'm blanking on his bassist's name for the first time in my entire life. Of course, it would happen on a stream. Um, but his drummer was the first band member to join the band, recording Another One Rides the Bus in a bathroom at Cal. No, wait, that was My Bologna was the bathroom. It was live on the Dr. Demento show. Live on the Dr. Demento show, John Bermuda Schwartz joined him drumming on his accordion case because there was no drum set in the studio, backing him on Another One Rides the Bus. And that is still the recording that made it to the album. That is the canonical recording of Another One Rides the Bus. That is still what you hear today if you hear that song. It's just an accordion, a room of people with sound effects, and John Bermuda Schwartz knocking on his accordion case. John is also an amateur photographer, and he is a bit of a historian of Weird Al throughout their career. As soon as they started working together, he started collecting everything, and he found a few rolls of film that had never been developed from photos he took during a very, very specific period, 1983 to 1986, on a black and white. It was black and white film on his camera, and he got them developed. This is while the world was shut down for COVID. He got everything developed and decided that there were great photos that had never been seen behind the scenes stuff from concert tours, from recording sessions, from music video shoots. So he compiled a book. This is Black and White and Weird All Over. This is a collection of John Bermuda Schwartz's photography from 1983 to 1986 with Weird Al Yankovic. And I will pop it open and show a little bit of what's inside. We're going to switch back to the benchtop cam. This is one of my absolute favorite pieces in the whole collection. because, at this point, this deep in Weird Al's career, how often do you get new media from the old days? So a lot of this, I mean, some of this predates me. Some of this, 83, I wasn't born yet, and I'm an old dude. So, yeah, to open it, immediate accordion page. But yeah, some behind the scenes stuff from some of his earliest music videos, the Hey Ricky video. Yeah, a lot of great photos there. Him and Trez McNell, who played Lucy in the video. Most of us would better know as the voice of Bart Simpson all these years. Um, yeah, we got a young Dr. Demento on the set of the I Love Rocky Road video. A young Al in the studio. Look at him. Look at young Al, so majestic. I get casual Al. Like I'd never seen a picture of Al in a V-neck sweater. He was always in a Hawaiian shirt or a funny T-shirt. Like these are images, behind the scenes of the Eat It video. Like this is the kind of stuff that, again, this is one that the night I got it, I moved to a corner of my living room that had good lighting but nothing direct, so I wouldn't get any of the glares that you're seeing. And I just pored over this book for hours, just looking at everything. There's a few little sections where he does a little bit of writing up, kind of telling you like context of the different years and what projects they were working on. But I read every word of it. But these images of these big expensive video shoots, just unreal when you consider Steve J. His bassist name is Steve J. As soon as I saw his face, I remembered that. See, I know his band. Ah, God, that's so embarrassing. As soon as I get on a stream, I forget something key like that. Yeah, and here's some just negatives that he didn't get done. So yeah, and that's his drummer, John Bermuda Schwartz. With the camera, he took all those images on, and yeah, pretty good to see the gravity of their career together. In the background, you see awards and gold and platinum records all over the wall. Yeah, I bet you that day when he went to Dr. Demento's studio to help out on the radio show, he never foresaw where his career was going at that point. But yeah, pretty amazing. And yeah, I pre-ordered this the instant it became available. Um, so that is one. But then this was very popular. This people in the Weird Al groups went nuts for this. It sold very well. So Bermuda decided maybe it was time to dive back through his other photos that he had developed, because he had done a lot of work with color photography over the years, still sort of chronicling just all of Al's career. So he wound up releasing a second large format picture book, this time in color, called Lights, Camera, Accordion, Eye-Popping Photographs of Weird Al Yankovic, 1981 to 2006. The forward on this is by Drew Carey. There's an afterword by Weird Al. And this, again, is an amazing little tome of Al's career. I'll do a little flipping through and just ramble a little bit. But yeah, some of these early pictures where he's, I believe some of this was described as him taking a lot of calls, negotiating tour logistics, asleep on a plane, backstage at NBC. A little early touring Al with the patchwork velvet pants. Young Steve J in the background, young Bermuda. Yeah, yep. There's a young Jim West. Just really, really cool to see these sort of. Yeah. Oh no, this is shaving his mustache for the Hey Ricky video. Yikes! Young Al without a mustache is a hell of a sight. Yeah, there he is putting on the wig for Hey Ricky. Boy, if you showed that picture to a random person, they would never know that was Weird Al. The outfit for the I Love Rocky Road video. So some of this overlaps with the previous book. 1984 Tour of the Universe in 3D. Yeah, some on-stage shots from would have been 84. Wow. Yeah, if you let me, I will just sit here and pore over this book and completely ignore the stream. The one scene they had where they had a lion on the set of on the set of Like a Surgeon, because there had been a lion in Madonna's video. is a very different era where suddenly he had some funding because his stuff did very well. We're going to skip ahead a little. Dressed as Prince, the Alapalooza tour. There we go. Amish Paradise behind the scenes. Gump. And then, of course, the Running with Scissors photo shoots. Again, probably my favorite album of all time by any artist. Full stop. Yeah, some really classic stuff here. And of course, the video for Saga Begins. That's right. Yeah, some of the pictures are older than I am. Yeah, they're sort of a very classic Al. We've got Hawaiian print Vans, Hawaiian shirt, goofy pose, raising one eyebrow. But yeah, a really, again, another book that I just pored over when I first got it. Yeah, just showing a side of Weird Al we don't usually get to see. He's very good at cultivating his presence in front of everyone. So seeing the part of him that is actually working was really cool. All right, so I would tell you that that's the last of the books, but that's not really true. Um, so Weird Al released a box set of his entire discography right after his record label his record contract ended. He had a very long record contract. The exact number of albums I want to say was 15 or 16. Fulfilled it over the course of essentially my entire life. Uh, and then his record contract ended. And that's where we are now, where he does not have a record deal. He doesn't need one. He doesn't want one. He's talked at great length about how media and people's attention moves so quickly now that by the time he would have an entire album's worth of songs together, half of the parodies would no longer be relevant. The songs in the polka medley, half of them would probably no longer be relevant. So it's a lot harder now. People's attention isn't as long now. And I agree with that. And I think that what he's done, where he's released little things here and there, probably the better move for him now. But he released a box set of his entire discography. You could get it on CD or on vinyl. I got it on vinyl because I already had everything on CD. Those will not be here in this video because those are carefully packed in a box inside my parents' house because I've not had anything to play a CD in a decade. But I assumed I would never have this particular item in my collection. I just assumed it was not going to be. I didn't have the money to spend on it. It was an expensive set. And there was a whole pre-order process that I kind of missed out on. And then Christmas rolled around that year, and it turned out my wife had picked it up for me. So it was pretty cool and pretty unique. And you can see me reaching behind me here. The entire box set came in a replica of Al's accordion. I believe you can see there, Yankovic. And it's got the keys here and the bass buttons here. And it does, in fact, move like an accordion. And that is because these little folders, the little bellows, the records were in there, in order, one per bellow. You'll notice they're not in there now. That's because it is much easier for me to store them not in this. This actually lives in a closet, carefully kept, because how could I ever let anything happen to it? But yeah, this is their little mini replica of Al's accordion that all the vinyl came in. But the set didn't just come with all of his records on vinyl. It also came with another book, and I'm gonna switch views here back to the desktop here. This is the book. The box was called Squeeze Box. Great name. And this is just another sort of, I mean, again, hand for scale. It's essentially the same dimensions as a vinyl record, maybe a little bit smaller. And it is another compendium of Al's work. There's a foreword written by Al, signed "Your Best Friend in the Whole World, Al." Boy, if he ain't right. Where there's collections of information about every single one of the albums that he released. behind the scenes images, all kinds of stuff. Uh, we got show flyers where it's the Turtles featuring Flo Eddie and special guest Weird Al Yankovic and his band. Imagine going to that show. And yeah, it sort of just makes its way through his entire career. And again, a lot of these images, these are the first time they were ever released. So this was another piece that was super important for me to have. Um, the UHF collage, Al as Rambo. I mean, Gandhi too, when he's doing the Raiders of Temple of Doom parody at the top. The ZZ Top costumes. Yeah, just really, really great stuff. Yeah, and there are his these are actual notes of the script. Uh, Not everyone would know this. The movie was written by Al and his manager, and they literally wrote the entire thing longhand by hand on a notebook. So there's actual pages of that in here. Bobby says he's never seen UHF. Well, my friend, I've got good news for you. It is free on Tubi. So if you go to Tubi.com, you can watch UHF like tonight as soon as the stream's over. And I would recommend it because it is one of the all-time greats, an absolute classic. But yeah, this was great. This was probably the first of these larger books that I had. And I poured over this live. See now this image of him live. This is they're playing Yoda. I can tell because he's in his Jedi outfit and playing the accordion. That's the epitome of like the moment I saw Weird Al play live, and I saw this in front of me on a stage happening with thousands of my fellow nerds singing every lyric along. Uh, might have been the first time I ever felt like I belonged somewhere, but it was also like I saw it. It was like the first time that I saw it, and I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to be in front of people. I want to be performing, and I want to be as myself and unforgiving about it as I can be. And that's in a lot of ways why we have the human monster truck Perry Von Vicious today. But yeah, and then at the end, of course, they had one extra record in here that was not a record from his discography called Medium Rarities, which was all his little odds and ends songs he did for different TV shows. He did a couple songs for theme park type attractions. Some of his early demos that played on the Dr. Demento show before he had a record deal. For example, you'll see over here, Take Me Down, 1976. My Bologna, 1979. Yoda, 1981 as a demo. Those all predate me by a number of years. I mean, 1976, that's 8 years before I'm born. So, yeah, his Weird Al and Fozzie Bear. Boy, if ever there was a picture of my two heroes together. But yeah, and then at the end, there's sort of a collage of a lot of his different works, some of his good moments in there. Somewhere, I wasn't able to find it for the stream, but somewhere packed away, this 8x10 of Al, my brother-in-law, Jay, had autographed and gifted it to me eventually. So it still says, "Hi, Jason," and then signed by Weird Al. So somewhere I have that. But yeah, so that's the book that came with the full box set. Let's see. Did I hear about Tanahashi? No, what happened to Tanahashi? Is he okay? But all right, I'm gonna set that over here. Are we breaking news? Hang on, I'm checking my Twitter. Seriously, if there's bad news about Tanahashi, and this is how I find out, that's very concerning. Oh, he's retiring. You know what? He's earned it. He's earned it. I got to meet him while I was in Japan, which was really cool. Chikuzan from Kyushu Pro introduced us just a couple days before he was named president of New Japan Pro Wrestling. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, but you know what? Good for him. He's earned it. All right, so now we got to get into the vinyls. And for this, I'm gonna drag the stack over here because it's a lot. It's about that many. All right, so these do in fact go in order, so we're just going to go through all of them here. And I'll tell you when we reach the end of the ones that came in that box set. So this is his self-titled first album, which I think is one of the great album covers of all time. It feels like it fell right out of Mad Magazine. Um, for a time, I was working on having a T-shirt design of myself done in this style. The artist, actually, my brother-in-law Jay was the artist. He is a professional comic artist. His schedule, he got a little bit into it, and then his schedule just wouldn't allow him to finish. So who knows? Maybe one day I'll have the T-shirt design like this. It's not out of the cards yet. Um, but yeah, just and then there you go, some early Al on stage. This album is so cool. It feels like it's such a wild. It's so wild to me that like I was sort of maybe some of the last generation where when you heard music, you didn't always have an image to go with it. You couldn't go on YouTube and find live clips. You couldn't. Uh, there weren't music videos for all the songs, so for a lot of it, you sometimes didn't know what the artist even looked like. You didn't know what a performance of the song would be like. So it was all in your imagination, and this whole album lived in my head and nowhere else. But yeah, that's Weird Al's self-titled album. That is a 1983 release. So this album, this album predates me as a human, not as a character, not as a performer, but as a human. All right, on to Al's second album, In 3D. This is a fantastic album. This album, of course, had Eat It, which was probably it certainly was his biggest hit to that time. Um, it also had two of, to me, two of his most underrated tracks, Midnight Star, which is a whole song written to reflect the wild headlines that were in weird, like supermarket rags at the time. Stuff about like Bat Boy or alien invasions, all that kind of stuff. There's a whole song about that. And then the song Nature Trail to Hell, which is meant to sound like the trailer for a bad 80s horror slasher movie, and it's one of my all-time favorite Al tracks, and it always lived in my head. I had images of what it could look like, what the movie it was describing could look like. And then on the ill-advised Vanity tour, I finally got to see it live. I saw it twice, once on each version of the tour, and it lived up to everything I wanted it to be live. That was a huge moment for me. All right, Dare to Be Stupid, album number 3. At the time, the most singles from an Al album and the most music videos. Um, the art there, of course, is fantastic. The fisheye lens on Al and all the weird items behind him. We flip to the back, and I'm just going to quickly say songs on this that had music videos were Like a Surgeon, Dare to Be Stupid, One More Minute, and I believe there's at least one more on This Is the Life. He had 4 music videos on an album that only contained 10 songs. That's pretty good for 11 songs. Still pretty good for a novelty artist in the 80s. Um, okay, good. Oh, they do have the complete Al on Tubi. Hell yeah. Uh, I mean, I don't know what order to tell you to watch them in. If I was watching them in order from where I end with the greatest, I would probably go Weird Al Show, Complete Al UHF. But you could watch them in order of their original release, which is Complete Al UHF, Weird Al Show. Kind of up to you. If you want to watch the production value slowly increase, you definitely go Complete Al UHF, Weird Al Show. I do think the Complete Al is probably the right place to start. It's a lot of fun and it's so quirky and weird. Um, all right, but that's Dare to Be Stupid. Now we're on to the first big disappointing album of Al's career. The first of his albums to only go gold instead of platinum, which he famously joked on his behind the scenes special meant he could only get the medium sized jacuzzi. Um, so this is a Polka Party. Go figure. This album cover and that title didn't sell well. Huh. Weird. Surprising. Um, this one, of course, also did not have a. He was always doing his lead parody on every album would be something very up to date and of the moment. Um, you want the value to go down. Start. Oh boy, if it's just production value and you want it to go down, start Weird Al Show, then UHF, then Complete Al. That's the order. Um, so this one though, the lead parody on the album was not like a big of the moment hit. It was actually kind of an oldie at the time. He parodied James Brown's "Living in America" with the song "Living with a Hernia," and this album was considered his first real flop. Um, but it didn't slow him down because he had some other cool stuff to go with. Now this is not part of the box set. This is a separate piece. This is super hard to find. I had this on a cassette tape for years when I had a car that only had a working cassette tape player. The radio didn't work, no CD player. It was before Bluetooth or anything like that. Only had a cassette player, and the only cassette I owned was Weird Al Yankovic and Wendy Carlos's Peter and the Wolf and Carnival of the Animals Part 2. Um, I love the art on this. The piece itself is fantastic. Joey Nails in the house, coming in hot on a Monday night. But yeah, this is fantastic. And the fact that he's working with Wendy Carlos. Wendy Carlos, one of like the all-time great composers and one of the people who did the most with like early synthesizers and the incredible work there. And most people might not even know one of the first publicly out trans people in the performing arts in a very public way. And I mean, this album, this was not early in Wendy's career. She was getting on in years by this point, and I want to say that this was 1980, 1988. So to give you an idea of just how progressive Al is, he's working with a very well-known trans person in 1988, which is awesome and so cool. And honestly, the music in this is, as with all of Wendy Carlos's work, is demented and beautiful and strange and sometimes impossible to comprehend. It's great, and I love the sort of art of this would be Wendy Carlos, or the depiction of in the corner with the synthesizers and the computer as a little bird in a nest that the cat that chased it up there is scared of. Love that. All right, going on from that, this was the turning point. This was the Al is back moment, the first Al is back moment. The story of Weird Al's career is one where he would do great, something wouldn't hit quite as hard, and then he would do great again, and everyone would sort of say, "Oh, it's Al, he's back," and he never actually really went anywhere. Even worse, which of course, what an iconic album cover. If you know the cover of Michael Jackson's Bad, this is the perfect parody. It's exactly the cover. I mean, Weird Al even sort of has the same physical shape as Michael Jackson, just with a mustache and glasses. This album is fantastic. Of course, it has Fat, because it would have to. Songs like Stuck in the Closet with Vanna White or You Make Me. I Think I'm a Clone Now. I Think I'm a Clone Now is maybe his most underrated parody. It's a parody of I Think We're Alone Now, which of course at the time was famously being covered by Tiffany. Tiffany, who of course at the time was dating Jonathan from the New Kids on the Block. Yeah, shows you how old I am. I remember late 80s pop relationships. But also parodying the song La Bamba with Lasagna. The original Melanie on this is an incredible song that I always wanted to see live, and it was right around the Alpocalypse tour that he finally did it. It's actually on the DVD as one of the extra songs. It didn't make the final cut, but they did save it. Yeah, this is another one where most of the album lived in my head and still kind of does. Now, going on from that, we hit another sort of dip in Al's career. This is UHF. This is the soundtrack to UHF. The movie UHF itself was, as I mentioned earlier, a flop. It was a flop. It didn't do well, but that is because it came out in one of the biggest blockbuster summers of all time. If you look up, I believe it is summer of '89. Yeah, summer of '89. Look up summer of '89 blockbuster movies. The movies that came out within weeks of UHF were like Ghostbusters, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Do the Right Thing, Purple Rain. Like, it was an absolutely insane lineup of like big blockbuster movies that are still very popular today. He never stood a chance with UHF. It wasn't his fault. And the fact that it has grown to be a huge mega cult classic ever since really is evidence of that. The soundtrack itself, almost none of the tracks are in the movie. This is definitely just a Weird Al album. It wasn't done for the movie. It's not like the movie's score or anything like that. It has "Money for Nothing," Beverly Hillbillies, the which does appear in the video in the movie. You'll recognize bits from that here. Um, and then it does have some things from the movie like Gandhi 2 and Spatula City, the actual UHF theme itself. But then it has stuff, and Welcome to the Fun Zone, which is how he opens every concert. Um, but it also has a bunch of other big sleeper hits, stuff like Attack of the Radioactive Hamsters from a Planet Near Mars, a song which he has still never performed live, but he's hinted that there's some new songs he's never done on this next tour, so you never know. And of course, the last track on the album is my all-time favorite Weird Al song, "The Biggest Ball of Twine in Minnesota." Um, yeah, this is a great album and a great movie, and I think it's criminal how it was treated. We then move on to another Al's back moment, uh, "Off the Deep End," which you'll recognize immediately, the parody of Nirvana's "Nevermind" cover, where instead of a naked baby chasing a dollar bill on a hook, it is a naked Weird Al chasing a donut on a hook. Your roommate started singing "Purple Rain" when I mentioned it. You should play the Aquabats' "Burger Rain" for your roommate. Gets a great sing along live. Um, but yeah, this album, of course, had Weird Al's parody of Nirvana, "Smells Like Teen Spirit," which he parodied as "Smells Like Nirvana," an entire song about how no one could understand the lyrics to "Smells Like Teen Spirit." It also had "Trigger Happy" is a great. I'm just going to run down it real quick. "Trigger Happy" was a great track. "Polka Your Eyes Out" is one of the iconic polka medleys of all time. Yeah, thank you, Joey Nails. We're so loud and incoherent. See, you know the jams. Bobby, Kurt didn't ask Al to do it. Al always asked the artist permission. He actually called SNL, because he was dating one of the cast members at the time. Called SNL, got Kurt on the phone, and asked permission to do it. And Kurt said, "Of course, that would be amazing." And then Kurt asked him, "Is it going to be about food?" He was like excited because Al wrote songs about food, and he thought that was really funny. And Al kind of sheepishly had to tell him, "Actually, it's going to be about how no one can understand your lyrics." And Kurt kind of told him, like, "Yeah, I guess that's probably funny too." So yeah, it's one of those. He doesn't have a lot of stories about when he spoke to the artist, but he does always get permission before he does a parody for a lot of reasons, legal and otherwise. Um, and of course, this album has my heart in a lot of ways, but a big part of it is the song "The White Stuff," which is a parody of the New Kids on the Block's "You've Got It the Right Stuff." I loved the New Kids when I was little. And he did ask for permission for Amish Paradise. I will correct you on that story when we get to the album. Um, The White Stuff was a parody of the New Kids on the Block, "You Got It the Right Stuff." It's a song about the cream filling inside of an Oreo. So he definitely did have some songs about food on the album, just not the one that Kurt Cobain wanted. That brings us to another big hit album, "Alapalooza." You can tell which movies were big at this time just by the cover. The parody, of course, of of Jurassic Park. This album too is a classic and one that I really like. Dinosaur Al on the back. Um, this had a parody of MacArthur Park that was Jurassic Park, which oddly enough was not the lead track. The lead track was also another dinosaur adjacent song. It was Bedrock Anthem, which was a parody of the Red Hot Chili Peppers' "Give It Away Now," which was all about the Flintstones. The lyric "Yabba Dabba Yabba Dabba Dabba Do Now." This song also has this album has some incredible tracks on it. "Harvey the Wonder Hamster," "Waffle King," and I mean, to be honest, Frank's 2000-inch TV, which is a style parody of REM. One of my absolute favorites of all time, and one that there's not a lot of Al songs that I've learned on the guitar because a lot of them are parodies, and learning the parody, it feels like I'm learning the original, which isn't as fun. But Frank's 2000-inch TV is one of my favorites to play on the guitar. Um, yeah, just an all around great album. "Young, Dumb, and Ugly" is a fantastic reflection of the at the time still thriving grunge scene. All right, so that gets us through 1993. Now we move on. Of course, we see it. This is the controversial one that Joey Nails brought up. Amish Paradise, Bad Hair Day, Weird Al Yankovic. This one is 1996. So yeah, this would have been late fifth grade, early sixth grade for me because I'm ancient. But as I mentioned, Amish Paradise. This also has Gump, the parody of Presidents of the United States of America's Lump. And The Night Santa Went Crazy, probably the greatest holiday song ever written. I mean, it'd be hard for you to convince me otherwise. Um, yeah, this does have just. I mean, again, I'm a huge Weird Al fan. I'm gonna fawn over every one of these albums. This was probably the album where I really realized how much I was gonna I was gonna enjoy Weird Al the rest of my life. Like my best friend in elementary school, Clayton, and I listened to this album until it was still cassette tapes at the time, until the cassettes just didn't play right. I mean, they sounded terrible because we had played the album to death. Um, yeah, Joey Nails. I bet you've never heard the alternate version of "The Night Santa Went Crazy." Not one that you hear very often. It was a different edit that he had released. But we'll get to that when we get to one of the later albums here, the medium rarities. So the story on Amish Paradise, he absolutely asked for permission. It's very hard to speak to artists directly, so usually you're speaking to their management, you're speaking to their record label, and that's who you get permission from. They usually speak to the artist. Sometimes they don't because the artist doesn't really have the rights to tell you yes or no. The people who own the music do, and that's the record label. So his management team had reached out to try to get a hold of Coolio. They talked to the record label. They got permission. They went through with the album. Coolio didn't know, got all upset, and said a bunch of things very publicly about how much he didn't like it and how bad it was. Um, and then years later, he took it all back and said that it was a misunderstanding and that he actually rather liked the parody and he liked Al, that they had spoken since then and even met in person. I actually just saw a interview with him about that today where he was talking about it. So yeah, it's one of those all's well that ends well. And truth be told, probably a little bit of that controversy in the moment didn't hurt record sales because this was at the time Al's best selling album. It wouldn't remain that way. He would definitely top it later on. So that brings us to my favorite album of all time by any artist, any genre, full stop. Weird Al Yankovic, Running with Scissors. This came out, and I'm going to double check the date they have on here. Yeah, I knew it was summer of 1999. This is the album that I do believe, along with the live performance on VH1 and the Behind the Music special on Al that came out that year, probably did more to change my life than anything else. Uh, that's Joey Nails throwing out the lyrics to every album here. My guy. Uh, this album was so important to me. I was going through it that summer. This was the summer after my freshman year. Yeah, summer after my freshman year of high school, before my sophomore year. And everything that could have potentially gone wrong for me went wrong that summer. And this album, that concert special, and the Behind the Music, I think, without getting into it too much, are probably the reason I even exist today, let alone the reason that Perry exists today. I can't say enough about this album. There is not a bad track. Some of them hold up a little less well today in terms of if they're going to be misunderstood as whether they're of their time. For example, there's a couple lyrics in Jerry Springer, and even the very concept of the truck driving song are a little on the fringe today. Al has explained those away pretty well, I think. But Weird Al is so benign and so harmless that like no one's ever gonna say that he did something maliciously. That said, Polka Power is one of the all-time great polka medleys. Thank you, Joey Nails. I appreciate it, my guy. Uh, Polka Power is one of the all-time greatest polka medleys. Saga Begins, probably his best parody. Full stop. I mean, it's incredible. Not everyone knows this. He wrote the lyrics to that before episode 1 came out publicly. He did the entire story of episode 1 of Star Wars in that song before the movie was out, based on spoilers and like theories that he had read on fan forums in the earliest days of fan forums online. So the amount of work that went into that is kind of incredible. Again, we got Your Horoscope for Today, which was a parody of the of third wave ska, which was coming around that time. You know, your Less Than Jake's Real Big Fish, Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, where he had the horn section from Real Big Fish come in and play on it. Um, Germs is a style parody of Nine Inch Nails, and when you listen to it and when you see his live performance of it and how he dressed and his mannerisms on stage, he nails Nine Inch Nails, forgive the pun. The Weird Al Show theme is on here. Again, one of the great Saturday morning cartoon themes. And of course, Albuquerque, the over 9 minute, I believe 12 minute epic that I can still quote like word for word, day after day. I've done it in the car with friends on the way to wrestling shows. Way back when I was just a little bitty boy living in the box under the stairs in the corner of the basement in the house half a block down the street from Jerry's Bait Shop. You know the place. Yeah, just my favorite album of all time. I could go on and on about it. And in fact, if you dig around far enough, wrestler Logan Black from out in this area, while the world was shut down, started a podcast where he would bring people on to talk about their favorite albums of all time. And I did, in fact, come on and we discussed Running with Scissors. So that's floating around the internet somewhere. See, Joey Nails telling me where to put my. Okay, yeah, I'll move it next time. I don't know. I mean, I am technically IRL. All right. Weird Al Poodle Hat. This album was the first one to come out after I was out of high school. I was in college when this came out. He, of course, on the cover is wearing his actual poodle that he had at the time as a hat. Hidden in the background, I won't point everyone out, but one of his closest childhood friends is hidden in the background on this, as is his wife. He got married in the interim between these two albums. His wife is in the background of this. I won't point her out either, although she's a fantastic follow on Instagram. She's an incredible photographer. She does some great philanthropy work. But yeah, Poodle Hat, which of course was his Eminem parody, Couch Potato, parodying 8 Mile. This also, again, Angry White Boy Polka is one of the all-time greats, where he hits a lot of the big heavy metal songs that were out at the time, a lot of like new metal stuff. Ode to a Superhero, where he's doing a Billy Joel cover, but it's all about Spider-Man. Yeah, this one, eBay, which of course is a cover of it's a parody of the Backstreet Boys' I Want It That Way, where it's all about what I bought on eBay. Yeah, a complicated song, which of course is a parody of Avril Lavigne's Complicated. Just fantastic. Now we're on to what would become his new biggest selling album of all time, Straight Outta Linwood. With a great cover of Al looking super tough in a town that looks nothing like Linwood, California. Look, I'm not going to say that I'm a creepy, weird fan, but yes, while I lived in California, I absolutely, while in SoCal, drove through Linwood and drove past his childhood home so I could see it myself. So what? It's fine. Someone else owns it now. It's just a house, okay? Don't judge me. This, of course, was White and Nerdy. Joey Nails still hitting all the lyrics in the chat. White and Nerdy, Pancreas, which was the Beach Boys style parody with wild vocal harmonies. Canadian Idiot, any Green Day fans out there? Polka-Rama was, again, every polka medley is better than the last, in my opinion. And Trapped in the Drive-Thru is another one of his really long epics. And another one I can do word for word. Yeah, just a great album and a huge hit for him at the time. White and Nerdy was huge. I mean, come on, it got its own figure, man. Like, not every album gets its own action figure. We then move on to Alpocalypse. We're getting way toward the end of his record deal here. This I don't think about these album covers that much, and then every once in a while I catch them. Party in the CIA. Joey Nails knows his Weird Al, man, and I appreciate it. Perform This Way, which of course is a Lady Gaga parody. Key and Peele were in the music video of White and Nerdy. A lot of people were. So was Donny Osmond, of all people, which is kind of fitting. He's a super white nerd. CNR, TMZ, Skipper Dan, Polka Face. Again, I'm going to keep saying it, one of the great polka medleys. Um, this album was fantastic. I do think CNR, which is sort of done as like a White Stripes style parody, really kicks. Like that song, man. Like that song is one of the ones where like you can get fucking into it, man. All right, and that brings us to Mandatory Fun, the last album released on his record deal. This album did become his best-selling album of all time, and the only time he had an album hit number one on the Billboard charts. It was released, its launch day, it hit number one. The very last album he released, which is a really nice cap on the end of a very long career of releasing full length albums. I remember being a little bit emotional the morning of that when it was announced, because I went through all of high school and middle school being picked on for being a big Weird Al fan. I was called every homophobic slur you can imagine. Oh boy, we got cheap viewers in the chat. Yikes. Um, I was called everything imaginable for being a Weird Al fan and not liking the same whatever drivel the fucking yokels at my high school were into. All of their artists are either dead or in prison now, so they can all eat it. My favorite artist had a number one record way late in his career and is basically seen as rock and roll and comedy royalty now. So yeah, they can eat it. Um, this album, of course, was also just amazing. Some great hits on here. A fantastic polka medley. Now that's what I call polka. Great name. Fairy State. That's right. Always come out on top. Foil, the parody of Royals. Yeah, this one was another one that is just full of hits and had a great tour that went with it. On this tour, I actually saw him play the Hollywood Bowl for the first time in his career, where he got to play with the Hollywood Bowl Symphony, the first time he ever played with a symphony. And I was there for both of those events at that show, and that was apparently a very emotional thing for him, having grown up in the LA area, the greater LA area, and his parents would take him to the Hollywood Bowl all the time, and the fact that he grew up and got to play there within a 10-minute drive from the house he grew up in, really cool. So I was really excited to be there for that, and I actually got to take that in with a number of my West Coast wrestling friends. They met me down there. Shout out Alexander G. Bernard, my old tag partner in the XS Express, met me at that concert with a few of our other buddies. But that was a great show. All right, and that brings us to the last record from the box set. Uh, that was the Medium Rarities. These are all unreleased tracks from his career, stuff that you generally wouldn't have heard before this came out, unless you'd been listening to Dr. Demento in the 70s, or if you'd taken in some of his harder to find stuff. It also has a couple. There's a karaoke version of Since You've Been Gone. Yeah, you better believe I've belted that one out a few times. The theme to Spy Hard. Again, some of his original early stuff, Take Me Down, 1978, the original My Bologna Capitol Records single from 1979, stuff that predates me, super old. And then newer stuff. When he was the house band for Comedy Bang Bang, they have the Comedy Bang Bang theme here. They've got his cover of the Ramones' Beat on the Brat. Shout out Graveyard Brat, your name showing up in the Weird Al pantheon. But yeah, just an incredible series of stuff. And again, getting back to Joey Nails, we mentioned it earlier. This has you can't read it all the way down there. The Night Santa Went Crazy extra gory version, where the lyrics change from Yes, Virginia, now Santa's doing time in a federal prison for his infamous crimes. Hey, little friend, now don't you cry no more tears. He'll be out with good behavior in 700 more years. Instead, the lyrics are, hey, yes, Virginia, now Santa Claus is dead. Some guy from the SWAT team blew a hole through his head. Hey, little friend, now that's his brains on the floor. I guess they won't have the fat guy to kick around anymore. That was how he always sang it live. And the first time I saw him live and he did that, I lost my mind. And I'm so glad that now I actually have a version of it where it sounds like that, because that is you couldn't get it before that. So yeah, that was a great little add-on for that box set, considering I technically already owned physical media of all of the albums. Now we're moving on to the last two records in the set here. Um, and this is the soundtrack to his movie that came out just a couple years ago. This is his second movie ever. Weird, the Al Yankovic Story, which of course starred Harry Potter himself, Daniel Radcliffe, in the role of Weird Al. Um, and yeah, the art in here is really spectacular. If you haven't seen this movie, you got to see it. It is free to stream on Roku. I think it's RokuChannel.com. You don't even have to have a login. You can just stream it, and it is 100% worth the watch. Rainn Wilson, of course, has a big role in it. There's a million cameos. Jack Black and a bunch of others appear. And I do love all the other records I just showed have just plain black vinyl. This one, though, the version that I got here was the Target exclusive. Comes in a hot pink. Ooh, ooh, very nice. Um, but I picked this up on my own, not knowing that you might be able to see it underneath. My dad for Christmas had actually picked me up the exact same album, but he got it at Barnes and Noble, where it comes in a glow-in-the-dark vinyl. I was planning to keep this sealed for a rainy day, but at some point, it just kind of, there's a hole here. So I think we're going to switch this real quick into a little bit of an unboxing. And we're just going to see what that vinyl looks like for the first time. I've not seen it. So this is, you're getting a surprise as much as I am. All right. Ooh, oh man. Oh, it's transparent. Oh yeah. Oh, that's so sick. If I was able to turn the lights off and show it glowing, I would, but I don't think I have a way to do that here. I've got too many lights for the studio. But yeah, this is the glow in the dark version, and that's amazing. All right, putting that back away before anything happens to it, because that's the first time it's ever been opened. So that is the full stack of vinyl. And I only have one other piece in the collection to show before we go here, and it's maybe my favorite. I'm going to switch back to the big camera. Again, picture, if you will, take us back to 1999, before a whole chunk of you watching were even born. A 14-year-old Perry, very overweight, had not had a growth spurt yet. Just a heavy kid with essentially no friends. No friends and no social life. I was just a nerdy dork that just stayed at home. I didn't go out and hang out with people. I was just quiet and weird, and I was full on bullied in school, and people didn't like me much. But uh, Weird Al was the first time I saw someone like me, who had done something that garnered attention, like positive attention. My dad's like me. He's a big nerd, but he was happy with a quiet life as an engineer. With his kids and his wife. He did fine, but he didn't have throngs of fans watching what he did and cheering for him. And for some reason, I needed that, and I didn't know it, and I didn't think it was possible. Uh, and so when I discovered Weird Al, I did what any kid did back in the day. Now you might tweet him, you might email, you might do something like that. But back when I was a kid, you wrote letters, and there were addresses in the liner notes of Al's albums where you could write to Weird Al. So I did, and didn't imagine I would hear back. I just wrote a nice little fan letter telling him how much I liked his work and how funny he was and how I was teaching myself the accordion. Uh, and then a few weeks later, my mom picked me up from school and handed me an envelope, and it was the sender was listed just as Yankovic and had a P.O. box in California. And she said, we're going to have to stop on the way home and grab you a frame. Because she knew what was in it and I didn't. Al was kind enough, or his management or whoever, it doesn't really matter, to send me a autographed photo that I'm going to get on the better camera here. And it's still in the same frame that I bought that day. It's traveled with me everywhere. It's been in every office of every job I've ever had, and it usually lives in my office upstairs. I can see it every time I'm live streaming video games. And I can't really, I don't think that I'm actually capable of putting into words what physically having this in my hands meant to me at age 14. But it was important. It meant something. If I can quote Al in UHF, this was important. This means something. And it's been on the wall of every place I've ever lived ever since. And if I had a job, it came with me to my office. And now that I'm self-employed and work from home, it lives in my office here. And the stream really wouldn't be complete without including it. I have never turned a fan down for an autograph at a show, ever. They don't need to buy my 8x10. They don't need to have something of me to sign. If they walk up with a ticket stub or a flyer or some little kids will literally like tear a piece of paper off of a show program to sign, or they'll bring up the flyer from the show and I'm not even on it. I never say no. And this is the reason. Because I know what it meant to me, and I know what it might mean to someone else. So yeah, that's the Weird Al collection. I'm pretty psyched that everyone was excited to see my collection. I know you guys had asked a few times when I brought it up, said it would be cool. So I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sure there is stuff that I've forgotten. Again, I went through 3 different shirts to show just the shirts that I have around of Weird Al. Yeah, I know I've had more that have just been worn out. There's some that I know are packed away here, and there's stuff at my parents' house that's packed away. But yeah, it's important to find the thing that's important to you that really matters. And anyone who has a problem with it, they can go fuck themselves. All right, guys, that's it for my stream tonight. Tomorrow night I'll be gaming. I haven't picked a game yet. Might have Bobby Gilbert on as a phone call for his birthday, so you'll want to tune into that and hear from our old buddy Bobby. In the meantime, stay weird.